So, speaking of sangha, um, the whole of the spiritual life, that's what I wanted to speak about tonight. And really, this is relationship. This is how we are in relationship. Um, Several different uh, conversations, I suppose, around what sangha is. I like this idea of sangha being any manner of supportive elements, elements that are supportive to our growth and to our progress along the path. So, in general, sangha is our relationships in the Dharma, our spiritual friendships, a community of practitioners that are supportive in our growth. So let me read you something. You've heard this, I'm sure, parts of it. One day, Ananda and the Buddha were sitting alone on a hill together, overlooking the plains of the Ganges. Having served as the Buddha's attendant for many years, Ananda often shared his reflections and insights with him. This afternoon, Ananda spoke. Dear respected teacher, Ananda said, it seems to me that half of the spiritual life is a good friendship, good companionship, good camaraderie. The Buddha quickly corrected him. Not so, Ananda, not so. And he continued, this is the entire spiritual life, Ananda. This is good friendship, good companionship, good camaraderie. When a monastic has a good friend, a good companion, good comrade, it is to be expected that they will develop and cultivate the noble Eightfold Path. And so this is known as Kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship. So this is a virtuous friendship. Literally means virtuous or noble friendship, admirable friend. So this idea of friendship, of spiritual friendship, of camaraderie, of support in our practice, support in this life, support on the path. And so I've been thinking about this because I feel like we are in relationship. We are in relationship with all things. And this is really what we are working with in our day-to-day. What are we doing here? What is really happening here? I was reading recently, this was Thich Nhat Hanh, reading about teaching and giving Dharma talks. And he says that your life is your Dharma talk. We're all teachers, by the way, in case you didn't know that. We're constantly impacting each other, impacting our world, impacting our communities. And we're all teachers. And so your life can be your teaching. Our lives are our teachings. Our lives are our Dharma talks. We are living Dharma. So how are we in relationship? How are we in relationship? So the Buddha here, when he's saying that it is the whole of the spiritual life, he's saying to Ananda that he's separating the difference between sangha and the dharma. And I like this idea of sangha being all of these different elements in life. Certainly the earth is a part of my sangha, but I like this idea of maybe a stone or a tree, different things that we, different elements that we have relationship with. A good book or a tea, these are all elements that are supportive to my being. Today, I took a walk. It's an early walk. Once a year at least. We have a volcano here where I live, not too far away. Once a year I go walking up there. It's really beautiful. It's high, so it's hard. But today I did an early walk. I usually do it in January. I did it today. I'll do it in January again. It's lovely. There's orchards and so on, but it's very supportive to my well-being, to my spiritual well-being. Why? It's good for my mental health. It's good for my physical health. I get the endorphins. I get the nature. And that, in turn, supports me in how I'm relating to other people, how I'm relating in my family, how I'm relating to my colleagues, how I'm able to work with my own practice in the Dharma, and then transmit the Dharma, which is my spiritual well-being. So just that relationship there, this Mount Kanaktai being a part of my sangha. And we have this, we are in relationship with all things, so many things. So when I first started my practice, I'll say this, actually in this tradition, some time ago, I actually had a job. I got hired at a Dharma center, and so I was in an administrative role, and I was accustomed to working with people, but not in many different environments, but not in this type of environment with sangha, with dharma, and so my life was not only my practice connected with dharma, but my livelihood, and then to my friendships, and I became sort of surrounded by this protective space that was sangha, right? And I forgot, walking around wrapped in bubble wrap all the time. I forgot. So over time, I spent years kind of in this cocoon of learning and growing in the Dharma, and then slowly expanding as my my professional world in the Dharma began to expand. I had to interact with people who aren't in the Dharma more often, and I forgot. Oh yes, people aren't leaving love at the ends of their emails. Oh yes, oh this is how it is. Sometimes it's ouchi and uchi, and there's all of these things which are not actually absent from the Dharma world. Who are Dharma communities are not immune, but it's interesting this place of relative safety that we have to practice in, and so. Because we can feel supported, the Sangha is a really great environment for us to practice. So what's it like, including these different elements into our Sangha? Some of us are difficult, or some of us have a difficult time with practice, so we're all in our different spaces, me included. I have a difficult time with intense emotions, or I might have a difficult time with my speech at times. We all have this. We're in different places. And so what about these beings? What about these beings that we just are where we are in our practice? How do we include these situations, these circumstances, these beings as well into our hearts, into our sangha. So the imagery is like this. If we have a small bit of water and we add some contaminant, maybe it's just earth, right? We probably won't want to drink it. But if we have an entire river or a lake where the water is fresh, there's no earth in it, we probably wouldn't mind drinking it. It would probably be refreshing. And the river might even purify the water even further. And so this is how we want to think of our hearts. Our experience is going to be there. Life is going to be there. Our relationships are going to be there. And this is our practice. This is our forging of our beings, forging of our hearts, whether it's family, colleagues, other countries, politicians, whatever it is. Relationship is going to be there. How can we grow our hearts? How can we develop the capacity? This, whatever it is that we are opening to, whatever it is that we are allowing ourselves to be with and hold, that our hearts are big enough, open, and like a river. And it's not really the earth or any contaminant or what we might perceive as a contaminant. It's not really gonna cause us to suffer much. And so when we are working to that and to that capacity, we're walking the path. Also, in our society today, we're creating a lot of young people. I know there might be young people in the room today, including myself. Hopefully, to some degree, we can claim. We're creating a lot of different ways than we have in terms of connecting and growing in relationship. And we see a lot of people without our roots, our connections. Trees, it's interesting, redwood trees, even oak trees out here, they look like separate trees, but they're actually all connected through their roots. It's very interesting. They communicate in this way. But we are developing a society where we're a lot more isolated in how it is that we're interrelating and how it is that we're making connection. Our young people are growing up with this, what I'm calling this illusion of connection. We're connecting in different ways, but our roots, root systems, a little differently. And so Sangha can also help us to reconnect. Our Sangha can be that kind of support. Sangha can be our family. Our Sangha can help us to develop a root system that is supportive to us. I talked about the sutta, the Atthadipa Sutta not too long ago, where the Buddha talks about being an island unto yourself. An island is not isolation. That's not what's meant by that. An island unto oneself is a refuge. So at sea, adrift at sea, you can be your own island. You can be your own refuge. That is what is meant by that. We have our own innate abilities, our own wisdom that we can tap into. That is what is meant by that. not isolation. Solitude is something that is valuable, and being able to um, understand our being, understand our hearts, see clearly. We want to be able to sit with our solitude, be with our solitude, reach the outer bounds of it, and go beyond loneliness into relationship, into friendship with this world, with this life. And that is what is meant by that, not isolation. I'll read you a poem by Maya Angelou. I always grew up knowing it was Maya Angelou. When did that change? It's Maya Angelou. This one's called Alone. She says, lying thinking last night, how to find my soul a home, where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody, but nobody can make it out here alone. I like that one. So she's speaking of the need for a relationship, the need for this friendship. And I'm asking us to, I'm actually saying that we can resource that relationship with anything that is supportive to us. Thich Nhat Hanh says that there's a lot of suffering, and we have to embrace all of this suffering. But to get strong, we also need to touch the positive elements, and when we are strong, we can embrace the suffering in us and all around us. So he's speaking to this protective environment, or this safe environment, to develop that solidity, which is sangha. And when we have that solidity, when we have our resourcing all around us, when our hearts are like the river, we can impact. Our life can be this Dharma talk, or this living Dharma that we are walking. And this is how we resource from here and impact out here. So we need sangha. We are stronger with our sangha. And so he also says that when we are strong, we can embrace the suffering in us and all around us. If we see a group of people living mindfully, capable of smiling, of loving, we gain confidence in our future. When we practice mindful breathing, smiling, resting, walking, then we become a positive element in society, and we can inspire confidence all around us. The sangha is a safe place for us because we can trust the sangha. We know that the sangha is working to awaken. We know that the sangha is being mindful. We know that the sangha is practicing, so we can ground into that trust, that solidity that supports us. Take refuge in the sangha. So the sangha is also one of the refuges. Think about that. Our Buddha nature itself, right? This light that is in here, our bodhisattva selves. That's number one, refuge. We know the truth of that. The second is the Dharma itself, right? The truth that we are all realizing. We are endeavoring to unearth. And the third is the sangha. Think about that. These three refuges. And so I take refuge in the sangha. It doesn't mean that I want to express any kind of devotion to the sangha. But without being in sangha, without having the support of resource, without having the support of sangha, without bringing the entirety of what it is to be alive, of our human experience into our hearts, we won't go far. We won't go far in this practice. So, the bubble wrap, and how can we engage this world in that way? How can we find relationship that is supportive with what is here, with what is unfolding for us? I've been saying lately, or it's been for me lately, how I appreciate my meals or my food. Whatever it is that comes to me is a gift, is a blessing. And so the same with each experience, with each morsel that supports me in growth. Difficulties are that, and it translates to suffering, right? Our suffering, our dukkha. If everything were pleasant, one of my nephews has a rich kid syndrome. Everything's very pleasant. He doesn't like to do much. If it were a little bit more uncomfortable, he might. But that is kind of the nature of what helps us to develop our tools, to sharpen, to open, to grow. There's a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of dukkha. That's why it's the first. It's the first link in our unfolding toward awakening and suffering. So we fortify in our resourcing, and we take that fortification and we can open to it. Much deeper things. I want to read this whole thing to you. By Tay. He says, your body, your consciousness, and your environment are like a garden. There may be a few trees and bushes that are dying, and you may feel overwhelmed by anguish and suffering at the sight of that. So sometimes, I know in my own life, it may look like to me that there have been roadblocks, or there's bridges that are out, or there are branches, waterways that are dying in my garden. And so he's saying, you may feel that way, overwhelmed and anguished. You may be unaware that there are still many trees in your garden that are solid, vigorous, and beautiful. When members of your sangha come into your garden, they can help you see that you still have a lot of beautiful trees, and that you can enjoy the things that have not gone wrong within your landscape. That is the role that the sangha can play. Another role. We can see that many people in the sangha are capable of enjoying a beautiful sunset or a cup of tea, and they dwell firmly in the present moment, not allowing worries or regrets to spoil the present moment. So we sit closely with these people. We walk closely with these people. Their living dharma impacts us, and likewise. And so I'll read you this from Pema and the children. Lastly, And this is also in regards to growing the capacity of our hearts to envelop all as part of our sangha. She says, the daring, gosh, let me put my readers on. She says, excuse me, spring chicken here. She says, the daring of having no enemies, whether it's ourselves, our lovers, bosses, children, or a local Scrooge, or the political situation, it's more daring and real not to shut anyone out of our hearts and not to make the other into an enemy. If we begin to live like this, we'll find that we actually can't make things completely right or completely wrong, because things are a lot more slippery and playful than all of that. So, kind of seeing or looking at experience as I do, the nourishment that arrives to us, right? Every day we're receiving nourishment. Food, water, clothes, energy, whatever it is. Same with our experiences, same with these teachers that come to us, all of it. And this is how we develop, this is how we grow this capacity. Looking at that relationship, how it is that we're holding things. Let's see. Ooh, one more poem. This is an excerpt, actually, from To All My Friends by Hanti. To all my friends who have been with me in weakness, when waterfalls rush down my two sides. To all my friends who have felt me in anguish, when this earthen back breaks between the crack of two blades. To all my friends who have held me in rage, when fire tears through swallows behind tight grins. I know you, I see you, I hear you. So I will just stop there. Yeah, so once again, coming into presence. Allowing what's been shared to settle. And so, may any benefit, any goodness, any merit, just by arriving tonight, just by supporting each other in our sangha, may we gather all of it into our hearts, and may we carry it with us into our lives, into our relationships, into our growth, into all that we create, all that we manifest in this life. And may they ripple outward, reaching all beings everywhere. May all beings know the benefit of spiritual friendship. May all beings be in connection and relationship with all things. May we carry these with us, and may all beings walk the path to freedom.